Okay, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be working on this 2017 Ford F550, and what we're going to be doing is replacing the DEF pump. I got a check engine light that comes on all the time for a stuck off pump. I originally replaced the harness based on the service bulletin, which I will include the service bulletin down in the description. Replace the harness for the DEF tank after inspection. They want you to go through and see if there's any corrosion. Replace the pump and the harness if there's corrosion. If there's no corrosion, just replace the harness. Harness is about $110, so that was a cheaper option, so we did that first. And then check engine light's still on, so went back in, did a little bit more testing, viewing it with my tool scanner, and what I was seeing is the pump was commanded on at 66% or so, and the pressure of the line was about 2 psi, which is pretty much nothing. It would bounce back and forth between 2 psi and 0, which obviously isn't right even on a long drive, about a half an hour drive from the city back to where we are, which is probably 15 or 20 miles on the highway. So we're gonna replace the DEF pump now. This is the switch and go truck, so I have some access from the top, but what I'm doing here is I have to remove the tank in order to get to it. So here's the fuel, the filler neck is behind me. Here's the hose for the fill, and then the vent hose located on the top. This is the front of the truck. Just unclipped that, just like 2 push tabs, pop. I always try to push those in first, then push the tabs, and then you can pull it off. The breather right here. I got the harness. This goes up here. I believe that's the heater. And then this other harness goes back to the main chassis, and that's the harness that was replaced. That harness goes down to the bottom as well. If you can see that little oval circle there, that's where that clips in. This harness here, that plug has a clip on it. So what I first did was remove all the DEF that was in there. It was about 7 gallons. In fact, the tank, I had refilled the tank, and since, I don't know, the last 3,000 miles, it hasn't used any of it. It's been at 100% the whole time, which is what I have in these buckets here. I got about 6 gallons out of it, which means there's probably a gallon left in there, but that's much lighter than, 40 pounds of DEF. To remove it, to drain it, I drained it out of this hole right there. What I did was I tried to use this Harbor Freight pump, but the end was too fat to fit in there, because this nozzle, even though it looks like maybe 3/4 of an inch, when you go down in there a little bit farther, actually put your finger in there, you can feel it, it gets a lot tighter. So I ended up using like a 3/8 fuel line. I put the fuel line down into the tank, so it would come back out here. I put a 5-gallon bucket right here, and then I put my air chuck into the tank, and I put a rag around it, and I clamped off this line right here, which at that point was hooked up. And when I pressurized it, it forced air into the tank, and I had nowhere to go but up out the line, and I ended up filling these 2 buckets up. Took a few minutes, but making a good seal right here. I had a nice rag, tied it up. In fact, I actually zip tied it at one point and had it really tight. That allowed the fluid to come out. Took a few minutes, but I got it out. Then I'll show you what's going on underneath here. So that's kind of the first step I'm taking. Again, I'm not a Ford tech, but I'm gonna make this work in my own shop. The DEF pump is located on the bottom of the tank, which means if I go to take the pump out, it's gonna just dump fluid everywhere if I would have just take that out. So that's why I'm trying to drain the tank. One, so there's no fluid in it, so it doesn't spill all over the place, but 2, it's probably pretty heavy, and I don't wanna try to add, if I could take 40 pounds off, I'm going to. So let's raise the truck up and look underneath and see what we got. Again, this is the F550 chassis. It might be different for the pickup. I know some of the older ones, like our 2011, I've had the DEF tank out, the pump's on the top, so you can just lower the tank and pull it. This thing's on the bottom. So let's go underneath, take a look. Okay, getting under the truck here. Right now I am underneath the transmission looking back. Here's the DEF tank, just a little 7-gallon. First thing I have to do, and this is where this all came in, with the service bulletin said to check this connector and check these connectors for corrosion, and there was none. So to replace the harness, which I did, and it still didn't fix it. So today we are going to continue the operation. We're going to pull in the whole tank. which now is pretty empty. So the first thing I did is I used this trim tool clip, and there's basically a push pin up here on the side. Pull that out, separate that, pull the whole pin out, and this cover here will come off. All right, there's a clip here, here, and there. Basically just a pull over and slot down, pull over, and then this pulls out. All right, what I've got so far is I've got the pump unplugged. I'm not sure exactly what this is. Unplugged as well. Everything down here is unplugged, and then like the line sensor is unplugged as well. And so is the def line, which is this right here. To unplug these, at least this def line, I use these hose pliers. Icon basically allowed me to get on either side of this and, you know, squeeze nice and tight, push it in first, and then pull it back. And I was able to get that off. Obviously, I didn't want to break that. I didn't want to break the end off of that. I'd done that before. I broke the end off of one of those once and had to put a new pump in it, which was like a $500 screw up on my behalf. So very careful getting those lines off. The next thing we're gonna do is that bolt right there and that one over there. I gotta get in here and get those loosened up, and that will have the tank drop. And then once I get that done, then I'll probably, maybe I'll put on the lift here. Basically put it on the bench, change the pump out, because you can see that's the pump right there, and it's kind of like a fuel tank sending unit. It's got that metal ring. So I gotta get in good position to pound that off and not damage anything. So that's the next step. We're gonna pull this tank off and get it on the bench. Okay, I got the tank out. You can obviously see that. It's on the bench now. There is still some fluid in there. I can hear it sloshing around. I tried to dump it out, but it seems like there's a one-way check valve. It doesn't let it come back out of the opening. So I just knocked this ring off here. That was like that. Simple. Hammer and a chisel. It actually came off really easy. Well, there's the def. Should get a pan or something underneath that. Too late. Okay, now I got a pan. There's only probably a gallon in here. I tried to get it out, but it just wouldn't go. Let's see. That's the pump. That looks like the same pump. There's actually a good amount of debris in there. I don't know if you can see. Oh wow, look at that. Yeah, you can see that in there, huh? I'm gonna clean this all out now while I got it out. Because at one point I had a def quality issue and ended up just adding fluid because the tank was half empty, and it got it back. It's got to be like 30, don't quote me, but like 30% urea. And when it got down to like 27%, and it gave me a def quality light. But anyway, I'm gonna flush this tank out while I got it. Maybe that's the heater. I'm not too familiar. I don't have any data on this, but we're gonna wash it out, clean it, and get our new tank in, our new pump in. Okay, so we're back in the truck now, and everything's been reinstalled. Pretty simple. It took me probably 2 hours. Actually, the hardest part was getting the freaking tank emptied, but you know, what you saw was basically put it back together in reverse order. So now what I'm doing is, this is the concentration I was telling you about, 31. I've had that be a problem before, but we're going to, this isn't anything that I need. This is a tool. I think it's the M8 something. MX808S is what this is, or MK808STS. It's got tire pressure sensor stuff on it, but it works good for these F550s and my Ford trucks. I've had a lot of good stuff out of them. So what I'm going to do is, it's kind of weird because they don't call it def. I call it like the redundant tank. You gotta go down to R to find it. Here we go. Injector cycle. I'm gonna turn that one on. Right now the injector isn't calling for anything. Heater's off. It's warm outside. Line pressure. voltage, pump commanded. And we are going to graph. So what I want to watch is the green line across the bottom. Right now I'm just idling, so I'm not expecting that to go high, but we're gonna go for a little ride. It might take a few minutes for this actually to pick up the speed, just because it's cold right now. Line pressure 0.36. The truck's got to kind of work a little bit. I think it's almost got to go into a duty cycle, which it's not going to right now because I'm just idling. So I'll bring you back with some results. Okay, so very quickly, we're back. I didn't even make it to the end of the driveway, and you can see that the line pressure is up to 72 pounds. It's down, commanding down, which I'm not sure how that works, how it would go down. It's still not calling for any injector to kick on, but the pressure is there, which is good. Basically, last time this happened, I drove for a half an hour and it still didn't come on. It was zeros across the whole way. So basically, this scan tool helped me figure out exactly what was wrong, which is good. So now I should not have a check. I shouldn't have a check engine light on anymore. So the pump was about $1,000, and that's why this had gone on for a little while. I hadn't fixed it because the pump, you know, $1,000 for a pump, $100 for the harness. I'm going to throw the harness at it first. Not that I was trying to throw parts cannon at it, but that's what the service bulletin told me to do. So that's what I did. Did it work out? No. But I'm going to show you one other thing that this tool can do, and it's called active test, where I'm basically going to command the pump on, and it should show a line pressure, which it wasn't before. So I'm going to circle back to my shop and try that again. But right now it looks like a repair. Okay, quickly, the blue triangles that are just popping off the screen is the injector for the DEF just kicked on, which means fluid's there, it's taking the DEF, it's using it, which is what we want. So I'm going to continue the test drive and just watch the monitors. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to increase the injector duty cycle and see if the pump command changes, which will then in turn change the line pressure, because the pump puts it into line. They're measuring the line pressure. Let's see, 19%. I thought I could command the pump on. Well, maybe I can. No, I can't. I can only command the injector, but that's not gonna do it. So there's no way for me to command the pump, right? This active test. Injector duty cycle, heater control, which is this line heater and tank heater. So I can't command the pump on, but I was able to view it in the live data. So it looks good. Okay, so that'll wrap up this video. Got me nervous there for a second, thinking it went back on. That'll wrap up this video. That's what I did for the DEF pump. I'm going to include down in the description as well the part number for this again, but this is a cabin chassis. It's different than your pickup truck, so you might have a different pump. Always check with the VIN number, and I recommend going to Ford and getting the pump direct. It's going to cost more money, but they tend to have a better warranty, and I've always found that the Ford parts for some reason seem to work a lot better than aftermarket. In this case, electrical components pretty much always go right for the Ford stuff. It's just a little bit better. It lasted 60,000 miles. I wish it lasted longer, like 160,000, but if I get that out of it again, I hope I don't have to do this again, but needless to say, I've had stuff like that before where, you know, you get 150,000 out of it, so you replace it with a Ford one and you should get another 150. So Anyway, see you guys in the next one.